There are levels of being unwanted. There's being forgotten, there's being excluded, and then there's the level I lived at, being tolerated. That's what I was to my family. Tolerated. A permanent +1 to my own bloodline. I'm Nate. 32. Quiet. Private. A little too strange for family dinners and far too unremarkable for my parents' taste. My brother Ryan? He was the walking Hallmark card they always wanted. Captain of the swim team. Graduated with a business degree he never really used. His job? Sales. His hobby? Talking about sales. His superpower? Never having to work that hard for anything ever. They loved him loudly. And I don't mean the sentimental kind of love. I mean the performative, Facebook post, Christmas card. Look what our boy did! Kind of love. Me? I was the blurry figure in the back of family photos. The he's doing something with food or something? Guy. I've been a chef. A dishwasher. A line cook. And now? Now I own one of the fastest growing boutique catering companies in the state. But they wouldn't know that. Because they never asked. And I never told. Keeping it secret wasn't spite, at least not at first. It was peace. Distance. My family had a way of staining everything they touched with judgment or unwanted advice. So I stopped sharing. That was the rule: keep my head down, build in silence, and stay off their radar. It worked. Until Ryan's wedding. One Sunday afternoon, I got a group text from my mom. Hey Nate! We'd love for you to come to Ryan and Jessica's big day. Hope you can make it, Red Heart. No. You're invited. No. We'd love for you to be part of the ceremony. Just come. A seat filler. An extra napkin. I should have ignored it. But something in me, the part of me still hungry for even scraps of recognition, typed back. Sure. When and where? A few days later, I got the formal invitation. My name was spelled wrong. Twice. But I noticed something on the RSVP card. Catering provided by Maison de Jules. That's my company. Well, the front-facing brand, at least. Maison de Jules is one of 3 boutique imprints under my main LLC, tailored for upscale events. I built the concept myself. Trained every chef. Designed every tasting menu. Still, I had to be sure. I called Jules, my events manager and longtime friend. Hey. Weird question. Do we have a booking for the Deckerhays wedding this month? Pause. Then. Yeah. Big one. 300 guests. Classy venue. What's up? That's my brother's wedding. Jules laughed. Seriously? Dead serious. Oh my God! They booked without realizing it's you. Yup. The silence on the line wasn't just shock. It was anticipation. You gonna say something? Jules asked. I thought about it. I thought about every holiday dinner where my job was a punchline. Every time Ryan interrupted me mid-sentence, and my parents laughed like he was doing a tight 5. I thought about the time I brought homemade truffles to Thanksgiving and they said, "That's cute. But you should try baking like Jessica's mom." And I smiled. "No," I said. "Don't say a word. Copy that." I spent the next 2 weeks in quiet preparation. Not for the food. That was easy. We'd already planned a showstopper: citrus braised short ribs, roasted leek tartlets, smoked beet salad with whipped goat cheese. No, I was preparing for something else. Because if there's one thing I've learned in this business, it's that timing is everything. And I had just been handed the most perfect timing of all. The rehearsal dinner was held at some overpriced vineyard about an hour outside the city. The kind of place where a glass of wine costs more than a tank of gas and everything smells faintly like lavender and fake wood smoke. When I pulled into the gravel lot, I saw Ryan's new BMW front and center ribbon on the mirror. His name was printed in fancy script on a wooden easel by the tent entrance. Welcome to the union of Ryan and Jessica. I was barely even on the guest list. Mom spotted me first. Nathan, she called from under a heat lamp, waving like I was her Uber Eats order finally arriving. You made it! Nate, I corrected gently. Always Nate. Oh, right, she said, brushing it off like it was nothing. Anyway, come say hi. Ryan's speech is about to start. My dad gave me a nod that barely registered as acknowledgement. Ryan looked at me with that smirk, the one that said, "You're here, but only because you couldn't stay away." Jessica didn't even make eye contact. Just sipped her rose and whispered something to her bridesmaid. They seated me at the far edge of the tent, near the speaker stand. Not with family, not with cousins. My tablemates were two of Jessica's college friends who spent the night dissecting Mercury retrograde and whether their exes were soul connected. I could barely hear the toasts. Not that they mentioned me. Ryan's best man gave a speech about their unbreakable bond, and being raised right by a real American family. My dad followed with a speech that should have been heartwarming, but wasn't. You know, he said, holding his glass up like a chalice, raising two boys was tough. One of them always had his head in the clouds. Always tinkering, always off in some kitchen or back room. But the other, well, the other was born to lead. Ryan's always had that spark. The crowd laughed politely. Mom dabbed her eyes with a cloth napkin. He just means you were more creative, she whispered, touching my arm. I didn't answer. I didn't need to. I'd heard this song before. My life, translated into footnotes, for someone else's spotlight. What none of them realized was that, earlier that afternoon, I had walked the wedding venue. Not as a guest, but as the owner of the catering company they had hired. Jules, my events manager, met me near the loading dock. Still want to keep it quiet? She asked, clipboard in hand. Absolutely. All right. Hors d'oeuvres are staged. Main course prepped. Dessert carts on standby. Full teams here. You sure you don't want them to know? I shook my head. Not yet. Understood. One note. The bride's mother keeps asking for changes to the seating chart, and she tried to walk into the prep kitchen. Keep her out, I said. And if she insists? We don't take direction from strangers. Jules grinned. My team had no clue the people they were serving were my family. They just knew it was a big wedding with a premium menu and a high-stakes delivery. That's how I'd train them: excellent, professional, discreet. What they didn't know, what no one knew, was that I'd already given one special instruction. Don't serve the food until I say so. Back at the rehearsal, Ryan was doing his big farewell toast. Tomorrow's going to be unforgettable, he said, beaming. And we're so grateful for the incredible team making it happen. Who's catering it? Someone asked. Some French company. I forget the name. Fancy stuff. I smiled. It wasn't French. It was mine. That night, as the lights dimmed and the guests dispersed into Ubers and cars, I took one more walk around the venue. I passed the perfectly arranged silverware, the floral centerpieces, the dessert station glowing under fairy lights. All of it spotless. My staff had outdone themselves. And tomorrow, if the wrong word landed at the wrong time, I could undo every bit of it. Wedding day. Blue skies, flawless wind, the kind of weather people spend thousands trying to plan into existence. The vineyard looked like something out of a bridal magazine: draped white linen, strings of Edison bulbs, fresh-cut roses dotting every corner. Guests were arriving in waves, smiling in pastel dresses and trim suits. My staff, in black vests, sleeves rolled to the wrist, moved through the tent like shadows, efficient and invisible. Sam manned the prep tent. Layla checked table settings twice. Jules hovered by the service doors, waiting for my signal. They didn't know who the bride was. They didn't know I was family. And I planned to keep it that way. I stood near the back of the aisle during the ceremony, watching Ryan beam like a toothpaste commercial. Jessica glowed in lace and self-importance. Vows were exchanged. Rings, tears, applause. Not once did they look my way. And honestly, I didn't care anymore. Not really. I wasn't here for reconciliation. I was here for clarity. And maybe, just maybe, a little closure. But my family? They couldn't leave well enough alone. During cocktail hour, I tried to keep to myself. I stayed near the bar, sipping sparkling water, watching my staff roll out the appetizers, mini crab cakes, goat cheese tartlets, caprese skewers with balsamic pearls. They were flawless. Guests were raving already. Jules caught my eye across the space and gave me the smallest nod. I nodded back. Not yet. Then I heard it, the sound that's haunted me since I was 15, my mother's laugh. Oh, stop, she said, clutching a flute of champagne, surrounded by 3 of Jessica's aunts. Nathan? A chef? No, he does something with food trucks, I think. He's always trying something. God love him. The women tittered. I felt the heat crawl up my neck. But Ryan, now that's success. Just closed on a second condo. Did you see the photos from Cabo? They hadn't seen me standing there. Or maybe they had and didn't care. One of the aunts asked. Is Nathan still single? Mom rolled her eyes. Oh, please. He's married to his menu. Probably brought Tupperware as a wedding gift. Laughter. And then she turned and looked right at me. Oh. There he is. Honey, did you get enough appetizers? I know you like the finger foods. I smiled. Calm. Slow. Ice. Because that was the last straw. Not the jokes. Not the lies. Not the humiliation. It was the fact that she wanted me to know. Wanted me to feel it. I pulled out my phone. Opened my staff group chat. Typed 3 words. Shut it down. Less than a minute later, I watched Jules get the message. She raised a hand, subtle. Gave Sam a signal. Layla disappeared into the kitchen tent. Plates stopped moving. Carts reversed course. Trays were taken off the tables. It happened so smoothly, so quietly, that no one noticed for the first 10 minutes. Guests kept chatting, sipping wine, expecting dinner at any moment. But the prep tent? Dark. The food? Being packed into vans and coolers. Gone. I walked toward the head table and passed my father talking with one of Jessica's uncles. You know, he said, I still think Nate could have done something with himself if he just followed his brother's example. Hell, maybe we wouldn't have had to hire out catering. I didn't stop walking. Didn't speak. I just kept moving toward the kitchen tent. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even revenge. It was relief. The kind that comes when you finally stop bleeding for people who feed off the wound. By the time they realized the food wasn't coming, it would already be halfway across town. The first sign something was wrong came with the sound of a champagne flute hitting empty glass. Aunt Marilyn glanced down. Did they forget the dinner service? It had been 42 minutes since the end of cocktail hour. 42 minutes of guests sitting at tables decorated with pale roses and gold-trimmed chargers, waiting for food that would never arrive. Jules had executed the pullout like a surgeon. No panic. No noise. Just whispered instructions and a practiced rhythm. The hors d'oeuvre trays were quietly rolled back, loaded into insulated bins. Entrees, prepped and sealed, were packed into the vans. Desserts were never even unboxed. By the time the guests began to shift in their seats, the staff was halfway gone. From the outside, nothing looked off. The bar still flowed. The DJ kept the soft jazz rolling. Plates and silverware glittered in the evening sun. But behind the illusion, the kitchen tent was a ghost town. I stood at the edge of the reception, watching. The panic started small. Confused glances. A murmured complaint. Then it started escalating. Jessica's mom, a woman whose voice could cut granite, approached one of the few remaining staff members. Excuse me, where is the dinner service? We are very behind schedule. The server, bless him, kept his composure. I believe the kitchen manager stepped away. I can go check. She turned without waiting and stormed toward the kitchen tent. I followed, slowly. She shoved open the flap, and froze. No steam. No trays. No staff. Nothing. Just a few prep tables, a single pair of gloves, and silence. I watched her face crumple. Where is everyone? She barked, spinning around. What the hell is going on? I said nothing. She pushed past me and stormed back toward the main tent, shouting for the wedding planner. Within minutes, the vibe shifted. The string lights still glowed, but the tension had arrived. The DJ lowered the music. The wedding planner whispered furiously into a headset. Jessica stomped out of the bridal suite, heels stabbing the grass like she was trying to kill the lawn. Why are people still waiting? She snapped. The wedding planner hesitated. There seems to be an issue with the catering. What issue? We paid in full. I could have ended it there. I could have stepped forward, told them what happened, taken the spotlight and let the humiliation land like thunder. But I didn't. Because they still didn't know. And that made it better. I sat back down near the edge of the tent and watched Jessica scream into her phone. My dad hovered near the bar, red in the face, trying to convince someone it was just a minor hiccup. My mom was wringing her hands, eyes darting, lips pulled tight. Ryan? Ryan was pacing near the sweetheart table, clearly realizing his big night was beginning to rot. Jules had vanished. Smart girl. Another 30 minutes passed. A few guests started making excuses to leave. We've got an early morning, so sorry. Kids are getting restless. Is there a to-go box or something? Jessica lost it. This is supposed to be the most important day of my life, she screamed. Where is the food? The wedding planner finally snapped. The catering company has left the premises. Silence. Jessica blinked. What do you mean left? They're gone. Jessica's jaw dropped. My mother gasped. Ryan's eyes widened. And that's when Jules, God bless her soul, reappeared near the edge of the tent. One of the guests, probably an aunt, recognized her from cocktail hour. Excuse me, are you the caterer? What's going on? Jules, calm as moonlight, replied. You'd have to ask the owner. Who's that? She didn't say a word. Just turned, and looked directly at me. 10 heads swiveled. And I saw it. The exact moment recognition bloomed on my mother's face. Eyes wide. Mouth opening. No. And I just smiled. There's a sound weddings aren't supposed to make. It's not music. It's not applause. It's the sound of chairs scraping across the floor, en masse, as guests start to rise for the wrong reason. That sound echoed through the vineyard like thunder. The moment Jules pointed at me and someone said, "He's the owner?" the entire reception turned. Not physically, not at first, but socially. The air shifted. Conversations died. Even the music stuttered. Jessica looked like someone had slapped her soul out of her body. You! She whispered. Ryan, red-faced and breathless, turned toward me. What the hell is going on, Nate? I took a slow breath. Tasted it. Dinner's been cancelled, I said calmly. You're joking, he hissed. This is your company? Surprise. My mother's face twisted like she had swallowed her pearls. Nathan, this is childish. You're embarrassing everyone. I'm feeding no one. There's a difference. Jessica launched forward. Do you have any idea what you've done? This is my wedding. You've ruined it. Funny, I said. I thought you ruined it when you and your mom laughed about me not being good enough to bring a real gift. My father finally stepped in. Son, whatever this is, you made your point. Just fix it. I looked him dead in the eye. It was never broken. You just never saw the pieces. And then the chorus began. Are they still serving? Did they really leave? I paid for the chicken upgrade. Is there at least a dessert table? 300 hungry mouths. 300 unmet expectations. And one man, me, sitting at a corner table, sipping water, untouchable. Jules had done her job perfectly. The staff? Gone. The food? Stored. The contract? Rock solid. I owed them nothing. Not even an explanation. Jessica's father stormed toward me next, jaw tight. You owe us. I owe you nothing, I said. You left a wedding without food. You hired a company. That company was mine. And I have clauses in every agreement that allow for withdrawal in cases of harassment, slander, or hostile treatment of our staff or leadership. Who was hostile? Hard to say. I shrugged. But I've got enough texts, recordings, and video to support the choice. He blinked. You recorded this? Always do. Jules, where's a mic? He turned pale. Jessica was now yelling at the wedding planner. This is a disaster. Do something. The planner held up her hands. There's nothing to do. The food's gone. You'd have to pay another crew triple emergency rates to salvage dinner, and even then. Even then what? Ryan barked. The planner sighed. Even then, they wouldn't be half as good. That line sent a ripple through the tent. Guests were already packing up, muttering. Someone was filming. I heard a woman say, Is this going on TikTok? Because holy hell. Nate. The failure. The food truck dropout. The +1 at his own family's life. Now? He was the reason 300 people would go home with nothing but confetti and a grudge. Jessica turned to me, eyes blazing. Why would you do this? You said I couldn't succeed. I never said that. You didn't have to. I stood up, calmly folding my napkin and placing it on the table. You all made it very clear what you thought of me. Then why show up? Ryan snapped. Why come at all? Because I knew the only way you'd ever remember I was here was if you couldn't forget I left. I walked out of the tent. Behind me, chaos continued. And in front of me? Silence. The kind that only comes after a storm, and the kind you earn. It didn't take long. Less than 24 hours after I walked away from the vineyard, the first video dropped. It was blurry. Shaky. Clearly filmed from a guest's table. But the caption? Wedding I went to last night. 300 guests, no dinner, and the groom's brother was the caterer. And he left. It had 86,000 views by breakfast. By lunch? Over 400K. By dinner? 2.3 million. The comments were everything I never heard from my family: validation, laughter, fury on my behalf. The quiet ones always hit hardest. That's not revenge. That's Michelin star karma. They played with a chef. He played them back. Let me know when your catering opens in Chicago. He said, no crumbs, and meant it. People started digging. Not maliciously. Just curious. Who was this guy? Who owns Maison de Jules? By the next day, someone had posted a LinkedIn screenshot. Nate Harmon, founder and executive chef, Maison de Jules. 2016, present, Portland, Oregon. We don't serve food. We serve moments. Suddenly, my inbox exploded. 52 new inquiries. Corporate event leads. Wedding requests. Press interview pings. A regional food blog wrote a post titled, The Most Savage Wedding Walkout, and the Chef Who Made It Happen. I didn't answer any media yet. I didn't need to. The story had legs of its own. And for once, the world wasn't laughing at me, it was clapping. My staff, unaware at first, slowly pieced things together. Jules called me the second she saw the viral thread. You, legend, she said through laughter. Why didn't you tell me it was that wedding? Would it have changed anything? Only that I would have popped popcorn before service. I chuckled. Tell the team thanks. They made history. And they had. But not everyone was cheering. By Monday, I got the text I knew would come. Mom, your little stunt is humiliating the family. You need to fix this. Then, Dad, we're getting calls from friends. Do you know how this looks? I stared at the messages for a full minute. Then typed. Looks like a really good marketing strategy. Left them on read. They called. I didn't answer. Because what could they say now? That I was overreacting? That I'd ruined Ryan's day? No one cared about Ryan's day anymore. The internet had already painted him as the golden child with a brother-shaped punching bag, who finally punched back. Jessica deleted her social media. Ryan changed his profile picture to a landscape photo. My parents? They went silent. But the silence wasn't peace. It was exposure. They couldn't spin it. Couldn't control it. Couldn't call my job a phase or a hobby, when half the comments online were begging to book me 2 years in advance. All those years they called me quiet? Turns out, I was just loading the chamber. And when I finally fired? It wasn't noise. It was a reputation that echoed. They came to my office on a Wednesday. I wasn't expecting them. But when I saw their faces through the glass, Mom, Dad, Ryan, all tight-jawed and pale, I knew they weren't here for lunch. I told my assistant, "Give me 10. No interruptions." They sat down in the meeting room like it was a parole hearing. No one spoke for the first minute. Ryan finally broke. "This is insane." I leaned back, arms folded. "What is?" "This whole situation. The videos. The press. Everyone's talking about it like I did something wrong." I raised an eyebrow. "And? I didn't even know it was your company." "That's kind of the point." He blinked. "What? You never asked?" He sputtered. "That's not fair. You never told us. Because for years, every time I did tell you something, you made a joke out of it. Remember when I catered that fundraiser in college and you called it Nate's Hot Pocket Parade in front of Grandma?" My mom sighed. "That was years ago. And nothing changed." My dad leaned in, trying the authoritative tone. "You've made your point. But you crossed a line." I looked him dead in the eye. "What line?" "You humiliated the family." "No," I said. "You did that. I just gave the rest of the world a front row seat." They flinched like I'd thrown something. Ryan looked down. Jessica hadn't shown up, probably too busy scrubbing herself from every tagged photo. Mom finally tried the gentle route. "We didn't know you were struggling." "I wasn't struggling," I said. "I was thriving. You just never noticed. Or cared. Or believed it could be real." She looked hurt, but I kept going. "I've catered events for senators. For Fortune 500 CEOs. For celebrities you brag about watching on TV. And none of it ever mattered to you. But the moment I take something back, one night, one dinner, I become the villain." Dad shook his head. "You embarrassed 300 people." I nodded. "Just like you embarrassed me at every family gathering since I was old enough to hold a spoon. Remember when you introduced me to your work friend as the one who's still figuring it out? I had 27 employees by then." Ryan rubbed his face. "So what? You're just done with all of us." "I'm done pretending you see me." They went quiet. Then Mom tried one last thing. The guilt card. "You're still our son." "I know," I said. "But you treat Ryan like a legacy, and me like a side dish." Silence. No denial. Just silence. I stood up. "Here's what's going to happen. I'm not apologizing. I'm not issuing a statement. I'm not fixing the optics. I didn't create this mess. I just took back a night you already stole." Ryan started to speak. I raised a hand. "If you want forgiveness, start with honesty. Not excuses." Dad opened his mouth. "And if you ever come to my office again without an invitation, security will walk you out." They stood. No handshakes. No hugs. No final plea. Just a heavy, awkward shuffle toward the exit. Right before they left, Mom turned back, eyes glassy. "Do you hate us?" I looked at her, not cruelly. Just truthfully. "I don't hate you. I just don't need you." And I meant it. They say viral fame lasts 15 minutes. Mine lasted 3 weeks. By the end of it, my catering company had landed a 6-figure deal with a regional event planner. My staff had expanded to include 2 new sous chefs. And my inbox? Still overflowing. Every single day, I got a message that said something like, "You're my hero. This was the most respectful act of revenge I've ever seen. Where can I book you for next spring? If my family ever clowns me like this, I'm taking notes. It wasn't about spite. It was about clarity. About how many people knew what it was like to be the background noise to someone else's spotlight. To be the butt of the joke at your own damn table. I gave one interview, just one. A podcast called Uninvited Guests asked me for a 30-minute call. I agreed. Not because I wanted to rehash it, but because I wanted to close it, cleanly. They asked if I regretted pulling the food. I said, no. They asked if I felt bad for the guests. I said, I fed them for 45 minutes. With 5-star hors d'oeuvres. If they wanted more, they should have brought less ego. They asked what I'd say to my family now. I paused. And smiled. And said, I hope the cake was worth it. That quote caught fire. Someone printed it on shirts. I hope the cake was worth it. Trended for 2 days straight on TikTok. A bakery in Ohio started branding wedding cupcakes with it. My staff got a kick out of it. My parents? Never said another word. No apology. No follow-up. Just radio silence. Ryan deleted his social media. Moved cities. I heard through a mutual friend he started selling property tech. Good for him. Jessica resurfaced 6 months later with new bangs and an Instagram account full of soft launches and filtered quotes about choosing peace. I chose peace too. But mine didn't come with soft, light, and vague captions. Mine came with receipts. With contracts. With a business I built from scratch, while they laugh behind my back. Peace, to me, is knowing I don't need to explain myself to anyone anymore. Not to them. Not to friends. Not even to myself. And it's funny. For years, they told me I was just trying to prove something. Turns out, I was. Just not to them.